I want to talk about serving the community, serving people in grace, right? Uh, One thing, I mean, I usually got a lot to say, right? I go overboard with these things, but there's so much to cover. But to the point, right? Um, when it comes to extending grace to people, that's one thing that we should keep in mind, right? That we should try as much as we can, depending on the individual, of course, depending if they're the levels of toxicity, because we're all on the scale, we're all on the spectrum. I should know. You've seen me acting a fool with people, which is that has a lot to do too with going that route, and it's just it's not an excuse for toxic behavior. But on the other hand, right, we talk about respectability, politics, and tone policing, right, which is something that people forget all the time. And professionals in that deep EI world, right, they read all these studies, they read all these uh, frameworks, right, and it's, to me, in a way, they forget, and and also they purposely forget and try to police the behavior of people who are marginalized, because let's be real, that's what we are, right, for the most part. uh, and they try to you know police and also penalize us for responding to our oppression, however we want, however we can, right? If you want to rage about white supremacy, hey, by all means. Not everyone agrees on methods, of course, and for me, I don't agree with a lot of professionals and a lot of suits. I think for the most part they're overseers. I think they can be very nasty to our communities. And that's what we know. If you look at the studies, that's what happens. And I'm not saying all, of course, and I always have to that's forewarned with that, because there's people that do with what they can, and the walls that are put around them in order to make a difference for us. But for me, it's like I stopped, right, arguing with people, for instance, fighting like I used to. But I don't judge, and I will not necessarily judge. I wouldn't condemn the person that I was then, right? There's a reason why I used to say certain things, and there's a reason why I'll come out at people a certain way, and there's nothing wrong with it. I don't see the need for it at the level that I'm at right now at the moment. But I think too, people that are trying to control folks like that, right? It comes from a they are thinking they're coming from a good place, but it comes from a bad place, and a bad place is just trying to control people's behavior, especially those who are marginalized. Because if when it comes to respectability, right, it's never worked. It hasn't worked. There are studies on this. It's just history. You look it up, right? There were people in suits who they were getting uh, hosed down. They were getting dogs sicked on them. It didn't stop. For instance, right? I'm just giving an example. And when it comes to it, I see, when you talk about community, there's a lot of people that grown famous people that are uplifted by the the systems, right? They're saying these are the people that represent you, and okay, I'm like, okay, that's good for you. I applaud what you've done. They're very, besides being vengeful, they're and it's very childish. They're very sensitive, which I get. Okay, we're all sensitive, but they hold grudges, and holding a grudge as leadership, as a representative for our communities, it's counterproductive, and it's childish. It's very immature. And I've had it with people, man, and it's crazy to me, right? Because for me, I don't really care about those platforms, right? I do care about our people, yes, getting ahead of these platforms, but I don't they're greenlit by white supremacy. They're greenlit by the status quo. So that means little to me, right? But it goes to their head. It goes to their head, and when you call them out on certain things, you're like persona non grata right now. And you're like, oh, how dare you? Oh, I was here. I remember this cat. This cat, I forgot. It's a huge Latino org, right? I remember this cat who was dressing down one of the members from the foundation. He was the president or CEO. I don't remember. I don't remember his name. I don't even care to his name. So he is an example, right? He was dressing down the member because the member was asking, you're a member of a foundation or whatever, your constituent of a politician. You should call them out, all right? It's your job to us as the leadership to put up with with the complaints, right? And see how you're gonna resolve it. So this guy was like, he responded to this member. He was like, I've been on Air Force One. Who are you? I've been with Obama on Air Force One. Who gives a shit, right? Who gives a shit that you've been on Air Force One? If you're gonna serve, right? If you're gonna be a leader, it's not people serving you and worshiping you. It's you serving the community. It's you serving people like that. It's you serving the least of us, not just the famous damn people, not just people that you think are your level. That's just trash, man. You're not a leader, man. You're a tyrant. You're a dictator. You just like the benefits of being up there, man. And of course, you're gonna get the benefits, right? But you're also gonna make a lot of sacrifices. And one of the sacrifices is putting up with that. Well, getting around that, the point is that, you know, I've had runnings with people like that. And I don't hold grudges. I'm like, okay, we had a disagreement on methods or the way that you're acting around people, which I think is just wrong. The things that you're saying, they're wrong. They're not they're not backed up by anything. It's just your behavior is trash. But I don't throw people away, right? I'm in the business of calling in people. I'm not canceling them. It's not really a thing either. And I still engage them, right? And I still engage them to let them know that there's no hard feelings here. I don't hate you as a person. I don't hate you as a human being. But certain things that you're doing, it's hurting us. It's hurting us, so you shouldn't be doing it. So some people, the ones that are mature, the ones that are deserving of their leadership that they're in, they are like, okay, you know what, Caesar didn't mean to take a shot at me as a person, right? You know, he did it in such a way that trying to correct certain behaviors, and which we all right. It's cliche, but we're not perfect, right? There's sometimes I do things that I do all the time too, constantly. I'm constantly. It's the thing, right? If you want to be in a space of fighting for folks, right, and you're visible, you have to be constantly looking within. You have to do constant introspection, right? You have to see, did I do this right? You know, did this hurt people in a way that is not going to change behaviors, right? You have to constantly be doing things like that. And for the most part, the people that that's why a lot of folks in the community don't like people that are in positions of power that are supposed to be representative of us because of that, right? But I'm like, you know what? I'm giving you grace because you're a human being, right? I'm giving you're not perfect, but the moment that you continue with that behavior of being dismissive of these elitist crap that you shouldn't even be doing, right? Because now we're going into, and this is one of the things that I want to talk about too, is accessibility, right? And being available, right? I get it, right? I get it that people are busy, and the higher up you're up there, you're even more busy, and there's a lot of people are going to be hitting you up all the time. People are going to be hitting you up for your time, for your ears. They want you to listen to them. They want you to solve so many things. And but then it gets to the point that I see, right? It doesn't hurt you to respond to people. They don't just have to be famous, right? They don't have to be at the level that you think it's they're deserving of your engagement. I think it's ugly. I think for me, right? And people think, no, I don't have a lot of time on my hands too. But I try to respond to people, right? I try to respond to people as much as possible. And so I even with a like, right? And it's sometimes it's not easy, right? And if I'm not going to do it because I'm too busy, I'm not gonna just respond to one or two people that reach out to me, or one or two people that are engaging me, especially publicly, because that sends a bad look. That's a bad look. And people will think, I don't know who people listen to, because even with leadership, depending on the hierarchy that we're at, they tend to imitate, right, and peacock to those who are higher up than them. So if they see them doing certain things, if they read, if they hear from someone that's up there, right, they're like, oh, so I have to be like this. And you find out 2 or 3 years down the road that these people, those people are scumbags. They're very toxic. You know, like Ellen, for instance, Ellen DeGeneres. Be nice to people. Remember when she used to end her show? And be kind, be kind. And her staff couldn't even look her into her eyes. They couldn't even look at her. Everywhere she was nasty. So I'm like, when when it comes to people in position of power, emulating behaviors like that, I don't. To me, I take their stuff with a grain of salt, right? So I think that's where people are getting that from, and I'm not speaking about a specific person because I do engage people from all hierarchies, right? From all walks of life, and, and I'm just saying is that we should extend grace to each other, right? We should be as available and engaging with our communities as possible, right? As much as we can, and don't show any preference for people who are up there. Because once you show that, you don't deserve the position that you're in. Once you show that, then you're acting like, you know what, my equals are up here, not the people that I'm serving that I think are below here. And at the end of the day, if you want to talk about who's the one you're betting and butter, right? Who's the one that's getting up there? You are. It's because of the people down here, not the people up there. So so y'all ended it with that. You know, it's extend grace to people, even those you disagree with. We're supposed to be a family, right? Family, there are disagreements in family. But the end, and eventually just break bread, right? And then treat everyone as equally as possible, right? You don't have to put up with toxic people, toxic behavior, and people consuming, to the point that you're like, you need help, man, and I'm not gonna be able to help you out because I'm a stretched thing, right? But at least have the decency to let people know that, right? I hope. Nos vemos.